The red flags that you ignore will be the same reasons that you leave. This is Natasha Kyler, and you are listening to Micro Musings. Hello, and welcome to the final episode of 2023. Now, I know it's only November, but I'm not doing episodes next month, so this is the final episode of 2023. Which is still very crazy because just yesterday, Micro Musings was a little idea in my head. And now I'm on the 27th episode. Really insane and also very cool. If you know me, you also know that I'm not a stats person either, but I checked just for this episode and I have over 200 downloads across all my episodes. So thank you all so much, and we're going to be celebrating. Am I actually going to remember to celebrate? Probably not, but I mentioned it and that was celebration enough. Celebration and reflection aside, I wanted to end this year on a strong and very vulnerable note. This poem is a compilation of some really old and fairly recent pieces. I like to believe that I haven't operated in this mindset in so long, but that may not be a true statement. The old parts of this were written back when the chase was my favorite part of getting to know someone. I think I wrote those lines about my ex when it came to the point of us no longer being toxic, and I didn't quite miss them, but I knew I missed aspects of us from the situationship phase. The more recent parts of this are from the product of me closing a short, yet extremely detailed and traumatic chapter. I do not miss the stress and anxiety that came with that person and our interactions. However, I am not innocent and I do miss them. And normally I place all the blame on myself, but for the sake of this one, I'm gonna say it was like 75% them, 25% me. And all of my 25% was delusion and actually believing that they cared about me, because they told me that they cared about me. What was I supposed to do? Deep down, I knew I wasn't special to them and it didn't matter if it was me or not. So I was aware. I was just ignoring it. Don't be like me. This poem is called Prefrontal Cortex because that's the part of the brain that makes good decisions, and clearly I wasn't making good decisions in those relationships. That's also the part of the brain that doesn't stop developing until you're like 25, so I'm expecting myself to make a lot more of these silly little decisions. That's enough of me rambling. I'm officially saying bye to all of that energy, and if either of y'all are reading or listening to this, thanks for the trauma. Do try to be better to the next. On to the poem. Prefrontal Cortex. My brain is not yet fully developed, so forgive me for being overly emotional and attached. It might be dangerous to be your friend, but to be your lover is fatal. So here I throw down my heart, tired of watching you use it as a rug, running out of energy to resist your torture. Begging for mercy, I plead that you give it back. I didn't learn that you would take from me in hopes that I break until it was far too late, because you have this way of pulling me in with promises and praise only to cause chaos and destruction, a detriment to my well-being. Sometimes I miss when you didn't love me, and the way I pined for your validation. Disregarding all self-respect, I abandoned myself for you, and that's how you got away with it. Dizzy and nauseous at the thought of it. Every conversation with you leaves me feeling sick. My skin crawls, remembering your touch and all the atrocities you commit. As I watch you smirk in victory, continuing to play with my emotions until you grow bored, while I write poems about every red flag that I chose to ignore. My brain is not yet fully developed, so forgive me for believing that it was meant to be. Blinded by the light I cast, always willing to look past the issues. And maybe you did love me, the way that you claimed, just not the idea of being with me. And as lovely and delusional as that theory may be, I think you just test to see where I'll draw the line. And expect me to forgive nonsense every time. Even when I tried to let you go in peace, you made your presence louder, then apologized, explaining how you're in the wrong. Scream, beg, and cry for another chance, and thus the cycle repeats, and be shocked when it comes with resentment, because my love for you never died, only my respect and naivety, when it comes to making sure the relationship doesn't die. Too bad it should have been rotting in a grave, but we forced ourselves to parade around its corpse. Let it now rest in peace, where I have nothing else to say about what used to be you and me. Okay, that was really the last podcast episode of the year. Guys, that's so crazy. I want to give out special thanks and shout outs to anyone who shared or reposted my poems or talked about the podcast in any capacity, all the listeners, anyone who tuned in at any given point in time, and anyone who inspired a episode. We may not talk anymore, but I do not regret anything. That may not be a true statement, but I am very grateful for that experience. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who's listening again. I'll see you guys next year. This is Natasha Kyler, and you are listening to Micro Musings. To read more of my poems, visit my website by clicking the link in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it, and if you enjoy the podcast overall, leave a 5-star rating. Please follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, with love, always, Natasha.